Hey, deep divers, welcome back. It's time for another deep dive. And today we're going to be looking at mental health in the workplace.
Yeah.
This is a topic that's been getting a lot of attention lately, and for good reason. I mean, it's really important. We've got a whole bunch of articles and guides about, different ways to build a supportive work environment.
Right.
And I'm really excited to kind of dig into this with you.
Yeah, it's definitely not just a buzzword anymore.
Right.
We're seeing a real shift in how we're thinking about mental health, especially, when it comes to work.
Absolutely. And, it's not just about feeling a little bit stressed or having a bad day.
Yeah.
One of the things that really jumped out at me from these sources was the actual cost of ignoring mental health.
Right.
We're talking decreased productivity, increased absenteeism, even big financial hits for businesses.
Yeah. And we can't forget about the legal and ethical side of things, too.
Right.
It's not just about being nice.
Right.
Creating a safe and healthy workplace is an employer's responsibility, and that includes mental health.
Yeah, it's a bit like building a house, isn't it? You need that solid foundation of support before you can even think about adding on, all the fancy stuff.
Exactly. And just like with a house, if you ignore cracks in the foundation, things can get pretty shaky pretty quickly.
Yeah. So how do we even start to build that foundation?
Right.
It's not always easy to spot the signs of mental health struggles.
Yeah, you're right. It's not always as obvious as, say a broken leg or something.
Right.
One of the articles I was reading mentioned, changes in behavior, like someone becoming withdrawn or missing deadlines could be an indicator.
Yeah.
It made me think, have I missed any of those signs in my own workplace?
It's a question we should all be asking ourselves, right?
Yeah.
And that's where reducing stigma comes in.
Yeah.
Think about it. If you felt comfortable enough to talk to your boss about feeling burned out.
Wouldn't that make a difference?
100%. And one of the guys I was looking at actually had some concrete advice on building that kind of supportive culture.
Okay.
It talked about employee assistance programs or EAPs.
Yeah.
I've heard the term before, but honestly, I didn't really know what they were all about.
Yeah, they can be a lifeline for a lot of people. Think confidential counseling, stress management resources, even help with things like child care or financial planning.
Wow.
All aimed at supporting employees' well-being.
That's a lot more comprehensive than I realized.
Yeah, some EAPs even offer specialized services, like legal and financial consultations.
Wow. But it's not just about having these resources, right?
Right.
People need to know that they exist and feel comfortable using them.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Another strategy that the guide mentioned was mental health training.
Okay.
Not just for employees, but for managers, too. Imagine your boss being able to recognize the signs of burnout.
Right.
And offer support.
Yeah.
That's the kind of environment we want.
It's almost like everyone gets a toolkit, for understanding and supporting mental health.
Yeah.
It made me think of like those workplace fire drills.
Right.
Everyone knows what to do if there's a problem.
We need that same level of preparedness when it comes to mental well-being.
Yeah.
And it goes beyond just reacting to problems.
Right.
It's about proactively creating a workplace culture that values mental health.
Okay. I'm curious, what else does that look like in practice?
One of the articles had a really interesting section on work-life balance.
Okay.
It wasn't just the typical, take a vacation advice.
Right.
It cited a study from the University of Manchester.
Okay.
Where employees with flexible work options reported feeling less burned out and having a better work-life balance.
Yeah, that one really stuck with me too.
Yeah.
That study from the University of Manchester where employees with flexible hours reported less burnout. It makes you realize that a little bit of flexibility can go a long way.
And it's interesting.
Yeah. It's not just about being nice. Companies are realizing that when employees have that flexibility and feel supported,
right,
they're actually more engaged and productive.
Yeah.
It's a win-win.
It is.
So it's like investing in your employees' well-being is also investing in the success of the company. But it's not just about policies and programs, right?
Right.
Leadership plays a huge role in setting the tone.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
One of the articles talked about how leaders can make mental health a priority in company communication.
Okay.
Not just a one-off email, but really integrating it into the company culture. Being open about their own experiences, actively promoting resources,
right,
and modeling healthy behaviors.
Yeah.
It's all about walking the talk.
It's like anything else in a workplace, right?
Right.
If the leaders aren't on board, it's hard to get the rest of the team to buy in.
Totally.
But it also made me think, What about those of us who aren't in leadership positions?
Yeah.
Can we still make a difference?
That's such a great question, and one we're going to explore in more detail
Okay.
after a quick word from our sponsors.
So we're back, and before the break, we were talking about, how we can all contribute to a mentally healthier workplace.
Yeah.
Even if we're not in a leadership position, like what can we do as individuals?
Sometimes the most powerful changes start from the ground up.
Okay.
One of the articles highlighted how small individual actions
Right.
can create a ripple effect,
Okay.
influencing the culture around us.
I like that. Give me an example.
Okay, so think about it this way. Each interaction we have is a chance to reinforce positive norms.
Okay.
So maybe you notice a colleague seems stressed.
Right.
Simply offering a listening ear or a kind word can make a world of difference.
Yeah, it's like that saying, be kind. Everyone you meet is fighting a hard battle.
Exactly.
We often don't know what's going on behind the scenes in people's lives.
Right. And on a more practical level, we can be advocates for mental health initiatives. Maybe there's a company survey you can participate in, or you could suggest a workshop or a training session. Even just bringing up the topic in team meetings can spark important conversations.
Those are some great ideas. I hadn't really thought about it that way before. It's like we can all be little seeds of change, planting ideas and encouraging action.
And you know what else? The article also emphasized the power of simply modeling healthy behaviors.
Okay.
Taking your breaks, setting boundaries, prioritizing your own well-being.
Right.
These actions speak volumes to those around us.
Actions speak louder than words.
Exactly.
If we want others to prioritize their mental health, we need to show them that it's okay to do so.
Now let's shift gears for a moment and talk about some broader systemic solutions that organizations are exploring.
Okay.
It's great to focus on individual actions.
Right.
But if the workplace itself isn't set up to support mental health, it's going to be an uphill battle.
That's where things get really interesting for me. I'm fascinated by this idea of designing the physical workspace with well-being in mind.
Yeah.
One of the articles mentioned incorporating things like natural light plants, comfortable seating, even designated quiet spaces.
It's all about creating an environment that feels conducive to mental well-being. Think about it. Would you rather work in a dimly lit, cramped cubicle?
No.
Or a space with plenty of natural light and a calming atmosphere?
That's an easy one.
Right. But it's not just about aesthetics.
Right.
It's about functionality, too.
Right. It's about having spaces where people can take breaks, de-stress, or have private conversations without feeling like they're hiding in a broom closet.
Exactly.
And don't forget the snacks.
Oh,
One of the guys I was reading even talked about offering healthy food options and promoting physical activity.
It's like creating a culture that supports well-being from all angles.
Yeah. And that brings us to another interesting development. We're seeing a rise in digital tools and platforms designed specifically to support mental health in the workplace.
Yeah.
Oh, like those mindfulness apps and online therapy platforms I've been hearing so much about.
Those are definitely part of it.
Okay.
But there are also more specialized tools emerging.
Okay.
Platforms that help employees track their mood, identify their stress triggers, and access personalized support.
It's amazing how technology can play a role in all of this.
Yeah.
But I also wonder about the potential downsides.
Sure.
Like, what about privacy concerns, for example?
That's a valid concern. With any technology implemented in the workplace, data security and user privacy need to be top priorities.
Right.
Transparency is key. Employees should know what data is being collected, how it's being used, and have control over their own information.
It's like with any new tool or technology, we need to be mindful of both the potential benefits and the risks. It's all about finding that balance.
Exactly. And to bring it back to you, the listener, what role does technology play in your own work life? Are there tools or platforms that you think could help support your well-being?
It's a good question to think about.
Yeah.
It's easy to fall into that trap of thinking of technology as just another thing adding to our workload.
Right.
But it can also be a powerful resource for self-care.
And as we wrap up this part of our deep dive, I want to emphasize that creating a mentally healthy workplace isn't about finding a one-size-fits-all solution.
Yeah.
It's an ongoing journey.
It's about finding what works best for your unique situation and being willing to adapt and evolve along the way.
Precisely. Every workplace is different, and the approaches to mental health need to reflect that diversity.
Right.
The key is to keep the conversation going, to share best practices, and to learn from each other's experiences.
We're all in this together. So let's keep learning, sharing, and supporting each other as we navigate this ever-changing landscape of mental health in the workplace. Okay, we're back for the final part of our deep dive on mental health in the workplace. And, we've talked about a lot of different things so far, like, building a supportive environment, taking action as individuals. But one thing I'm curious about is some of the challenges that still exist when it comes to addressing mental health at work.
Yeah, one thing that really stood out to me from these sources was this question of measurement.
Okay.
Like, how do we actually know if all these initiatives and programs are making a real difference?
Yeah, you can't just, take someone's mental temperature.
Right, exactly. It's
Yeah.
not that simple. And one of the articles actually mentioned that, it's a real challenge to measure the effectiveness of mental health programs.
Yeah, because mental well-being, it's so multifaceted.
Right.
It's not just about looking at, productivity numbers or absence rates.
Exactly.
Uh-huh.
We need to consider a wider range of factors,
Mhm.
like employee feedback, engagement levels, even things like how long people stay with the company.
So it's more about looking at the whole picture.
Exactly. And that requires a much more nuanced approach to data collection and analysis.
Yeah.
We need to develop better tools and methods for measuring the real impact of these initiatives.
It's like trying to measure happiness.
Mhm.
You can ask people how they feel, but it's not always a straightforward answer.
Exactly. And it makes you realize that there's still so much we're learning about mental health in the workplace.
Yeah.
And that leads us to another challenge that the sources highlighted, the need for more personalized approaches.
Okay, so you mean like recognizing that everyone's experience with mental health is unique?
Precisely. What works for one person might not work for another. We need to move away from these generic solutions and toward more tailored support.
Yeah.
It's like healthcare.
Yeah.
We wouldn't expect everyone to respond to the same treatment in the same way.
Right. And I imagine technology plays a big role in making that personalization possible.
Absolutely. The article mentioned AI-powered platforms
Oh, okay.
that can customize resources based on individual needs.
It sounds kind of futuristic.
It is. It is. Imagine a future where instead of everyone getting the same generic advice,
Right.
you get support that's tailored to your specific situation and preferences.
But it also raises questions about data privacy.
Of course.
The more personalized things become, the more important it is to safeguard that information.
Absolutely. Data security and transparency are non-negotiable, especially when it comes to something as sensitive as mental health.
Right. It's a delicate balance, finding ways to leverage technology while still protecting people's privacy.
Which brings us to what might be the biggest challenge of all,
Okay.
raising awareness and fostering a culture of openness around mental health.
Yeah, that was a recurring theme in all the articles and guides I was reading. It's not enough to just have resources.
No.
People need to know how to access them and feel comfortable doing so.
Imagine a workplace where it's as normal to talk about burnout as it is to talk about a head cold.
Yeah. That's the kind of environment we need to create. But that takes more than just words.
Right. We need to invest in education and training, not just for employees, but for managers and leaders as well. Everyone needs to be equipped to recognize the signs of mental health challenges and to respond with empathy and understanding.
It's about creating a culture of mental health literacy.
Exactly.
Just like we teach first aid and fire safety, we need to educate people on mental well-being.
And it goes beyond just ticking boxes or complying with regulations.
Right.
It's about building a workplace where everyone feels safe, supported, and respected. A place where people can bring their whole selves to work without fear of judgment.
It's about creating a culture of empathy, both for ourselves and for each other. And that's something we all have the power to contribute to.
Well said. At the end of the day, it comes down to recognizing our shared humanity. We all have mental health, just like we all have physical health.
Right.
And creating a workplace that reflects that understanding is not just good for business, it's good for everyone.
That's a powerful message to end on. Any final thoughts for our listeners before we wrap up this deep dive?
Think about one small step you can take this week to advocate for better mental health in your own workplace.
Okay.
Whether it's sharing an article, checking in on a colleague, or simply speaking up about your own experiences, every action matters.
It doesn't have to be a grand gesture.
Right.
Even small acts of kindness and understanding can have a ripple effect.
Remember, creating a mentally healthy workplace is an ongoing journey, not a destination. Let's keep the conversation going and support each other along the way.
Thank you for joining us on this deep dive into mental health in the workplace. We hope you found it insightful and empowering. And until next time, keep learning, keep sharing, and keep diving deep.